So this is my exhaust. This is the exhaust. If you have seen the videos and pictures, this went from the turbo and up through the bonnet up here. So this is how long it was. This is what we call up pipe, not down pipe. I'm gonna need to make a new exhaust for this. I'm gonna keep this one because I think it's cool, but it's way too loud for Norway. Like if I lived in, I don't know, Florida, I would run this, kind of like, you know, boosted boy style. But since I live in Norway, we are not even allowed to use this on any, or almost no of the racetracks we have in Norway. I know of one drag strip, but the rest I think would say it's way too loud. So I need to make full exhaust. I found some pipe. This actually Eric has found it. So I have a lot of pipe. This is 3-inch, and I'm gonna make full exhaust, down pipe underneath, muffler, and go out through the rear on the OEM place. Going through here. And of course I'm gonna have 3-inch all the way. I guess that will be plenty enough for my setup at the moment, or for until I change to much bigger turbo or have put in the other engine I have, my other 20 valve. So I said in the previous video, it's a lot easier to make it. Well, it's easier to make exhaust if you put the steering rack up, but I guess it's not that big difference. It is easier if you put the steering rack up, but there are so many there are so many more advantages of putting the steering rack down. So you should still put the steering rack down, in my opinion. I'm gonna make the exhaust 3-inch all the way. I have this kind of like brace. This bar I put between, underneath the steering rack. Many people do this when going all-wheel drive. I did it mostly because I wanted to have the dog bone from the gearbox, the dog bone mount from the gearbox, which goes on the Mark IV. It goes towards the bulkhead, and it mounts underneath the bulkhead, kind of in the subframe. Since the Mark I doesn't have a subframe in the front, I made one bar, and yeah, so the dog bone will fit. So it needs to go on the exhaust, needs to go from the turbo 90 degrees, a bit more down, and maybe it's easier if I just show you. So it's actually quite a lot of space, to be honest, for 3-inch. There is room between, you know, this part, this silver part of chassis and CV axle. So among all of these pipes, we found this, 2 of these actually, and this seems to be quite good for going down and underneath the car. So I'm not so sure how easy it is to see. The pipe is going. Now the pipe is laying on the ground. Yeah, I guess it's not so easy to see, but the pipe has kind of the shape, so I don't need to make the pie cuts for the underneath the car, from the bulkhead to underneath the car. I've never made exhaust before. like a full exhaust. The only exhaust I've made is this, which I think doesn't count. So this will be interesting. Like most things on this car, basically all of the things I've done to the car, it's like trial and error over and over again, and this is no exception. I have done some pie cuts. I think this was not 100% necessary. Pie cuts is like this, if you can. I don't know if anybody watching who does not know, but pie cuts, it's like you cut it in this kind of shape. Like if you had a pie or a pizza, you would cut it, and this is kind of the shape you would get. And you stack these on top of each other, and you can make like a 90 degree. By the way, I cut these at 9 degrees because then you can make 45 degrees and 90 degrees. It will be this low, maybe on the lowest point, maybe just hopefully slightly higher up into the chassis. But I guess if you have seen pictures of any other all-wheel drive Mark 1, usually the exhaust is not really hiding inside the tunnel. At least the drag Mark 1 Golf, or even some Mark 2s. So unless you cut more in the floor and you know, make room for it. So anyway, this is how it's going to be. It needs to go underneath the steering rack and this bar I made, which I talked about, and underneath the anti-roll bar, and then it can go up and kind of inside, halfway inside the tunnel at least, all the way to the rear and under the subframe in the rear, and then out. And I'm gonna need a muffler somewhere on between the anti-roll bar and the rear. So I may put, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, like exactly. I have some ideas, but we will see. At the moment I'm thinking of using this 90 degree, and I'm gonna use, but this is not gonna be enough in itself, so I'm gonna use the pie cuts on either side of this. At least on this side here, this weld, I'm gonna cut the pipe about where the weld is, like a bit to my right, probably because it's not gonna sit like this on the turbo. It's gonna be a bit of an angle, and then I figured I could use pie cuts, and also on the bottom to kind of make it go about where I want the other piece to sit. One thing that kind of sucks is that the fact that this MIG welder is broken. I don't know what's wrong with this. Eric discovered it, so it's not usable, at least at the moment. So I'm just going to, you know, prepare most, or at least some of the piping, and Eric is gonna weld it with his STIG. And at the moment he's on work, traveling for work. This part is not going to be done in this video, I guess, but I'm just going to start, and then later we're going to finish. Since it's really difficult to show you like in the engine bay how the exhaust is going to be, because as you can see it's like barely visible for me to see how this fits when I hold it. So to even stick a camera in there is, yeah. But excuse me. At the moment, yeah, I cut this up and 2 pie cuts because of the angle. So on this side is the turbo, and on this side, yeah. So here is the turbo on this side. So this will sit, the flange would sit like so on the turbo, and I'm gonna angle it towards the bulkhead. So it will sit, I don't know, something like this maybe. And I think this is gonna give good clearance all the way. And I'm gonna have to cut it again somewhere here, like, and take more pie cuts and angle it straight down again. And I think that's gonna work, hopefully. Again, since the MIG welder is not working, and I don't know how to TIG, Eric. So I'm gonna get this like spot welded, and then we can, cheers, and then we can like bolt the flange on the turbo, see where we need to cut it, make it fit, and I guess I'm gonna be finished with this video now.